Well, that wasn't what I thought would happen. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. This is Chelsea 1, Crystal Palace 1. Definitely not how I was expecting this match to go, especially after the game that we had versus Wolves last weekend. But I'm going to get into all of my thoughts in this video. Definitely make sure to let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And while you're at it, if I can ask a favor of you guys to drop this video a like and sub to the channel, it honestly means the world to me and really helps people to find my channel and my content. So I really appreciate it. But enough of that, let's get into this video. Now, last week I said that the game was a tale of two halves, and I feel like it's the same this week, except for the worse. I thought that Chelsea started really well in the first half, and then everything just collapsed in the second half. So in the first half, Chelsea had a lot of possession. We were moving the ball quite quickly. Crystal Palace were blocking the middle passing lane, so that was forcing Chelsea to go out wide, but I felt that we were trying different combinations. We were trying to break Crystal Palace down, kind of like we know that we're going to be able to break them down. It's just a matter of when, not if. There were slight moments that maybe you saw a little bit of frustration creep in, but for the most part, I felt like we were able to keep our heads cool, and then we got the goal. And the goal was fantastic because it was a great link-up play between Madueke, Palmer, and Jackson, like 3 of your 4 attacking players on the pitch. And I was just so impressed with how fluid it was, that it was a great counter-attacking goal as well. Palmer's vision in order to find Jackson, he gets his easiest goal that he might score. He just has to tap it in. And at that point, I was like, okay, we've unlocked Crystal Palace. We're going to go forward. I could perfectly see us getting more. And on top of that, I was extremely happy for Nico Jackson to get his goal, because there's been so much talk after the Osimhen situation and how Chelsea didn't sign him and how we need a striker. And I've always been in the camp that Nico Jackson is a very good player, and I'm very happy with him because he scored 14 goals in the Prem last season, not including penalties. If you give him penalties, not saying that you should, but if you give him penalties, maybe it's more. So for him to be able to get like another year under his belt of development, maybe that's exactly what he needs, and he could be the one who unlocks the number 9 situation that we've really had since Diego Costa left the club. I also want to take a moment to talk about Madueke, because in this first half I felt that he had a really good performance. He was very direct, as we know he can be. He had 2 shots, one that maybe he should have done better with, and another one that was just an insane save from Dean Henderson that I thought would definitely be in. So given that, Chelsea could have been easily 2 or 3 goals ahead going into halftime, but it was yet again a tale of Chelsea are creating opportunities but just not making the most of them and not being clinical enough, and it ended up biting us in the butt. Fast forward to the second half. Will Hughes is on a yellow card, and we see that Madueke have been testing him for the majority of the first half, since he got it after just 15 minutes. And then yet again in the second half, it looks like he should be sent off, but he's not sent off. And when that happened, I was like, how is this not a second yellow? Like, this looks super clear to me that it's a foul, and you have players who have gotten yellows, like Neto got a yellow for much less at the beginning of the game, so it was just like very inconsistent in my opinion. And as soon as that happens, you can kind of see that Chelsea lose their heads a bit, because he substituted off, which makes sense, like he was looking like he was going to get sent off, and then all of a sudden Palace are handed this lifeline. Eze scores this incredible goal, and it's 1-1. So going back to the title of this video, I think if there's one thing that Chelsea really need to improve going forward in order to be winning these types of games, it's the mentality. They just got sluggish, like they didn't know what decisions to make. They were moving the ball slowly, and it just looked like they were down because of conceding the goal, the decision that was not made against them, but just not made at all. I definitely did feel that, and I think like this team really needs to like be able to get over that mental hurdle, because at the moment that they're able to do that, things can click into gear again. But I just felt like after that moment, Chelsea just didn't really look convincing, and I was actually worried that Crystal Palace were going to score, because they did look the more lethal of the two teams. They definitely did have a decent amount of chances and opportunity. And then you just have a slew of things happening. So Pedro Neto didn't have his best game for Chelsea, so we bring Joao Felix on. I didn't notice much of an impact from Joao Felix. He had one good moment that I can remember, that the ball kind of stuck to his feet, which he's known for doing, but then he was just unable to get a shot off. And then Malo Gusto goes down, looked like he pulled his hamstring. I'm really hoping that he's okay, because I think while Reece was suspended for these 3 games from last season, I do think he has a minor injury as well. So I'm really hoping that he's okay, because otherwise we're going to be quite susceptible on that right hand side. We saw once he came off the pitch that Fofana moved over to the right back, and I think Enzo moved a little bit deeper, and that just didn't seem to be working as much either. You don't have as much balance on that right hand side, so really do hope that he is okay, of course. And then we saw that Mudryk was brought on for Malo Gusto, and again that was one that I didn't think quite made sense, just because we really haven't seen the likes of, we haven't seen the best of Mudryk. I think that he's very raw, and so I don't know if he was necessarily the best choice to make in that situation in order to be somebody to change the game. And that's where I'm very excited about the signing of Jadon Sancho, because I think you bring him on, maybe he's more direct, he's definitely more of a goal threat, we know what he's capable of, and he just hasn't had like his best at United, so maybe that's somewhere where Chelsea could go on to change the game. But it just felt like the substitutions didn't really help us, and we had so much fluidity in that first half, and then in that second half the fluidity disappeared, because again you're also playing with a lot of new players who have barely played together. A lot of these players were signed just very recently, or brought into the team very recently after having been injured. So you're dealing with a lot of that, and it just looked more disjointed. Nico Jackson did have 1 or 2 very decent opportunities at the end of the game where I was just like, how did the ball not go in the back of the net? And I think those are maybe the opportunities that he needs to be more clinical in, and needs to kind of nail down going forward, because that's the difference between a top striker that's going to win you games and be the difference maker. I do feel like he can get there, because he's getting into these positions, like he's doing so well. So I really urge you guys to be patient with him. Like, I just have a feeling about him that he's going to come in really clutch, and he just needs a bit of time, and these are all learning opportunities. So overall I felt that Chelsea played quite well in the first half, not great in the second half. I was glad that we didn't concede, because it was looking like Palace could have gone and taken all 3 points at one point. So I'm at least glad that that didn't happen. And one more thing that I wanted to talk about that I think was very surprising in this game was the fact that we didn't see much of Cole Palmer in the second half. In the first half, we saw him a lot more forward, where he was really able to affect the game and pick out those special passes that we know that he's so good at picking out. And in the second half, he was pushed a lot deeper. He was picking up the ball much deeper from midfield, which I feel negated some of the lethalness or creativity that we get from him going forward. I still think that he was able to do that role well, but I do prefer him higher up the pitch. And I saw him getting a little frustrated with himself. That yellow card that he got, where he kind of kicked the ball away in frustration, you could see that he was in his head a bit as well. So in the moment that players are starting to get frustrated and maybe doubt themselves, or like the type of thing where you're like, why isn't this coming off? Why isn't this happening the way that I want it to? Like, and really getting frustrated by the opponent and just the game in general, like that's when you know that the game maybe just isn't for you today. But I think like that mental bit is what Chelsea really need to work on, because we do see it, we did see it quite frequently last season, conceding and then just not being able to get over that hurdle of getting back into the game. So I think that if Chelsea work on one thing, it should be that. The goal should come. I think the defense will sturdy up when we see the same players playing together. That's going to take a bit of time, but I feel like we do have signs. We've seen it versus Wolves. We've seen it in this first half, but now it's just a matter of Chelsea being able to tie everything together and really put out like a 10 out of 10 performance for 90 minutes. So we're going into an international break now, so hopefully it'll be at least a mental break in terms of like the pressure and physicality of the Premier League, and hopefully they can come back and we can get off onto a winning foot and start like really dominating games and start racking up some points. I did say last video, even though it was a really great win, that I do expect this Chelsea season to be very up and down again, because we're starting over again with a new manager, with a new system, with a lot of new players as well. So it's going to take time, and I feel like we're just seeing Chelsea growing, but there are positive signs there, and the first goal is proof of it. Like, you've had Nico Madueke and Palmer all starting in that system, and they're learning how to play with each other, and they're learning where the others are going to be, and they're getting that chemistry. So I think that's really exciting. So while I'm disappointed with the draw and with how the second half went, I did see some positive signs, so I'm going to try to hold on to those, because I'm trying not to let football ruin my day or my weekend this season. Let's see how I get on. But guys, those are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Hope that you enjoyed this video to the extent possible, and hope you have a great rest of your day, evening, whatever time you're watching this. And until next time, I'm out. Bye!